Hi, Will Brooks, Sales Director at Spectrami in the UK, joined today by Stephen Hope, who is the co-founder of Authlogics. Welcome.
Thank you. Very well.
Today we're going to talk about Authlogics and how it helps organisations with authentication challenges, and in particular we're going to talk about NCSC guidance that has been released. They talk about 7 points around how you can help organisations to make security and password security in particular much easier. Stephen, do you want to talk a little bit about Authlogics and what Authlogics does?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Authlogics is a software security provider which helps customers prevent problems with passwords and with multi-factor authentication, and also remove the pain associated with passwords down the road.
Okay. And because of the way your product works, an organisation needs to have domain controller or controllers, and you sit on there and look at that as where the passwords are stored. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the main place we start with, because a lot of customers have got Active Directory. It's been around 20 years, and unfortunately the technology in Active Directory out the box doesn't allow you to comply with the newer password guidance that's been around for the last year or so. So we needed something to bridge the gap between the modern password guidance and the technology that everybody's using.
Okay. And we hear in the media a lot about breached passwords and organisations get hacked and password data gets stolen. How does that impact organisations?
There's a huge impact on organisations, and there's lots of ways these passwords get stolen, from phishing attacks, just people not thinking and sharing passwords, to the actual attacks on companies' databases being stolen. And the problem is, once you get usernames and passwords out there in the wild, the bad guys get them, and they can just log in as you. It's a kind of a simple attack once you've got the keys to the kingdom. Yeah,
okay. So, just drawn up here a very simple scenario. An organisation's got a couple of domain controllers, and users will log on and authenticate there. And people will set up a rule that says you have to change your password every 30 days or every 90 days, whatever the policy is. And there's sometimes some restrictions around what passwords people can use. It has to have uppercase and lowercase maybe. But there's no checks actually done around whether those passwords have previously been breached or have been used in the past.
Exactly. I mean, Active Directory is very limited in what they give you for password policy control. And like you said, you've got password complexity on or off is kind of all they give you, and expiry in time. But none of that comes close to any of the modern password guidance, and it creates a password management headache for end users, which actually encourages bad behavior.
So we often hear about users reusing passwords or just adding a different character at the end of it so it can manage. And we've all have in our personal lives as well as our business lives more and more systems we have to log into, and you get more passwords, and you're just like, what am I going to use this time? And people reuse those passwords for LinkedIn and Facebook, other social media, as well as probably using those in their business world.
Yeah, I mean, these complex passwords have created password fatigue for human beings, which has encouraged behavior like password sharing. So you use the same password on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on your corporate network. Okay. So as soon as some other site gets breached, technically all the others have been breached as well. They just don't know it.
Okay, so this is an organisation today.
Yeah.
Authlogics, what's the first thing you can do to help these guys?
The first thing we can do is have a look at what's in the Active Directory at the moment, which has probably got 20 years worth of old passwords. Yeah. And we can take a look at those and find out how many users and which users are already using a password that is known on the internet to be breached. So a very important first step is to take stock of what you've got.
Okay.
And we do that by having a database up in the cloud, as you've drawn there, which we've got about 1.8 billion different credentials from various data breaches over the years in that database. So we know a good collection of bad passwords and associated usernames as well. So we can go in your Active Directory and have a look at what you've got in there and see, are any of those passwords you have today in our database, and then know if a user's already been breached.
Okay, so what you do is you effectively install a bit more than an agent, but an agent on the domain controller?
Yeah, and once we can do the check, we can then install an agent on each domain controller, which basically intercepts every time a user changes their password. So instead of using the old-fashioned Active Directory password policy of uppercase, lowercase, number of letters, etc., we throw away that old logic and use new password guidance from NCSC and NIST, etc., which the agent will then take the new password, check it against the cloud, and
so
say,
literally,
is it already been breached?
So someone's put a new password in here.
Yeah.
It's going here.
It goes to the
before
domain
it gets to
controller.
the domain controller, it goes up here, it's checked.
Yeah. And if our agent sitting on the domain controller gets a good signal back from the cloud to say, yes, this password you've got has not already been breached, then we will allow an Active Directory to save it ready for the user to use.
Okay, so that's enforcing much better password policy.
Yeah.
Giving people much better control. And so how many, is it likely that someone uses this and they'll put a password in and it won't be accepted, and another one it won't be accepted? Does it create bad behaviour?
No, I mean, obviously, there's a chance someone will put a password in that will be rejected. That's the whole point of that big database being there. So part of this comes with the user education to explain to them about the use of passphrases. And, just taking password and putting PA55W0ID doesn't make it any more secure, because that's a very legacy way of making a secure password. So teaching a user to say car, brick, table as a password is perfectly safe, because it's a simple word, it's easy for them to remember, and it's very long and it's not going to get brute forced in a hurry. But they will be able to remember that for quite a long time. It doesn't have to have a number one or exclamation mark in it to be secure in reality.
Okay.
And it also means you don't have to change it all the time. The whole point of the NCSC guidance they talk about is don't change your password every 30, 60, 90 days. You only have to change them, according to their guidance, when you have a compelling reason to do so. And a good compelling reason is if it's been breached, then we force it to be changed.
Right, okay. So do you constantly check this Active Directory passwords with the database?
Yep.
Yeah, so if that password has been used by somebody else in another organisation and it's been breached, it will then tell you to change that because that password's now potentially compromised.
Exactly.
Excellent, okay. So hopefully from this really short video you'll get an idea of how Authlogics can benefit your organisation. If you'd like to learn more, then please get in touch with us here at Spectrami.